As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast.
Neal.
And wait, they talk about the things they did that day. The land and let the work of Triple H. Rewind-A-SmackDown. 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 Rewind-A-SmackDown.
Hello, YouTube. Hello, free audio podcast listeners. Welcome to tonight's edition of Rewind-A-SmackDown. I am here, joined by appropriately dressed in black, Neal Flanagan. How are you doing?
Indeed. Yes, I'm in my morning attire tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually just cold in the house at this time of night, so I'm in a nice woolly sweater, but yeah, feeling the pain.
Yeah, we are here to talk about, we just talked about 23 minutes of news, talking about everything from Roger Jackson cutting his plea deal, Dana White being asked about his altercation with his wife on The Breakfast Club, Nick Khan, and what he said about the DOJ looking into sex trafficking allegations into Vince McMahon, and of course, Dark Side of the Ring, Season 7 topics. This extended edition, of course, is available all in the Post Wrestling Café, of which later on, as we extend the show into the end, so towards the end, towards feedback, Neal and I will actually be giving our Backlash preview and predictions as well. But with all that said, Neal, let's talk about tonight's edition of WWE SmackDown. This is from Jacksonville at the, what is the name of this venue? It's the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena. WrestleTix has this at about 7,340 tickets out. Now, this is not as low as last week was at about 6,000 something, but still definitely low compared to the last time they were here when they sold about 10,093, I believe, in about 2004. And the capacity for the venue is currently set for 13,568. So way off target of what they probably wanted for this arena. And I guess continues to maybe show a bit of a downturn in audience and attendance. Obviously 7,340 still sounds very good by most metrics of professional wrestling, but for WWE, this is not very strong. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I agree with you. And I think if I were in the if I were in the catchment area for this arena and it was the go home show for Backlash, which is only 3 weeks after Mania, I might not be tempted either, so I'm not really surprised. I do feel it's not indicative of a pattern yet. It's hard to read too much into it, but this was noticeable tonight on the show, particularly at certain portions of the show, that this arena was roughly half full, and you could tell.
We start things off with an in memory of Ted Turner graphic shown on WWE television. And, as far as, I suppose, acknowledgement of Ted Turner, this was about really all we got. But did you even expect this? What were your sort of feelings and reactions to the way they acknowledged Ted Turner?
I think it could have been in very poor taste to do something during the show. It wasn't something I'd thought of until I realized that this show was replete with all these memorial segments for the Gingerbread Man. So to move this all the way to in front of the Now Then Forever signature was probably the thing to do, before the show even really gets started. A graphic, it's something, and nothing would have been somewhat, I think, insulting, of a man who was so pivotal in a company that the WWE ended up buying. So they've got the library for all the WCW stuff and all the rest of it. So I expected some kind of recognition. This was very little, and it was a blink and you missed it. If you tuned in a little late, expecting one of the commentary team to mention Ted, you weren't going to get that, but it was an acknowledgement.
Now, in these sort of like in memory, like I guess you could say like graphics boards, even for people who don't get like the whole like video package treatment, they would often put these at the end of the show, like in the case of like several of their staff members who have recently passed away. That would have been disastrous if it came at the end of this particular show. So yeah, I'm not going to say it wasn't awkward, because it was still very awkward to go from this in memory of Ted Turner like board to the promotion of this show long like tease of the Gingerbread Man's funeral. But nonetheless, like, this is the sort of dance you enter when you start parodying the concept of death the concept of funerals, because you could be dealing with it in the very next episode, which they of course did here. So we start things off here with Jacob Fatu. He comes out and he gets a pretty strong babyface reaction here in Jacksonville. He says since they were young, everybody saw the future in Roman Reigns, while everybody saw nothing in him. He says Roman was born with opportunity, Jacob was born without, and before he can say a bit more, he gets interrupted by his cousins, the Usos. Jimmy continues to play good cop here. He says he's proud of Jacob. He says a part of him roots for him, but the other part of him is looking out for him. And he asks Jacob what will happen tomorrow if you lose. Jay, playing the bad cop, says he's lived in Jacob's position. Roman will beat him and break him down emotionally, physically, all right in front of his family. And when he does, his wife, his kids will all have to acknowledge Roman Reigns. Jacob responds saying he can't lose. Tells Jay, guess what? You never beat Roman Reigns. He says he's not in the main event. He says it's not just a main event. This is for his family, and he's ready to die tomorrow as he ramps up to give his catchphrase before warning the Usos that if they interfere, he will burn his entire family tree down. Man, what do you think about just this little retort here in this opening segment between the two?
I thought Jacob was great here. His intensity is so believable. And he delivers catchphrases in a way that very few can, that are believable. The all gas, no brakes with it. I thought he was great. I'm getting a little tired, although this will all probably be over to some degree tomorrow night, of the Usos being the sort of Friday night substitute kind of avatar for Roman Reigns. They really do feel like his stooges here. Despite getting a big reaction, and of course, Jay gets the yeet after nearly every sentence he says. So this was where the crowd generally, that's a norm, or sort of at their hottest for the opening promo segment. So it was great, but yeah, I think not so great is the Usos being Roman's Friday night messengers. They feel a wee bit less than.
Well, yeah, I mean, they are occupying a really interesting, and I would say maybe to some confusing space, in this first month of the Bloodline's reunion, in that, like, they come across very much, in my opinion, heelish, opposing Jacob Fatu in all these segments, with Jay specifically being the one telling him to fall in line or else, threatening him. And despite all that, though, like, people just still have this sort of like very automatic reaction to the Usos theme song, to Yeet, to et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like we are still dancing with, an eventual full-on heel turn. But at the same time, you're talking about Roman Reigns, who will get cheered no matter what. So, but that still kind of leaves the Usos in a bit of an ambiguous state, which I don't think is a problem at all right now. But it's just very different from the Jey Uso that we've gotten used to over the past year. But Jacob Fatu, I think, in these segments over the past several weeks, despite a relatively short build, I think he feels incredibly hot as a challenger to me. To me, he has, as far as like an energy in terms of like just how captivating he is on screen, to maybe just even the backstory he has and how personal this grudge is for him. I think he's been one of Roman's more compelling challengers over the course of maybe this entire Tribal Chief run. But obviously that will be very much determined by the match and whether or not the feud continues tomorrow. But we are fully back into Bloodline family drama again, and I'm actually quite happy about that. Like, I feel like we've taken enough of a distance from like actually getting to stories like these, and I feel like this is a fresh enough sequel without completely retreading something involving the same cast of characters. You're involving arguably the biggest addition to the family right now, and he is incredible on screen.
Yeah, he is, and it's a slightly different cast. It's a smaller cast, really. It's at the moment the Bloodline is really just Roman and the twins, because Solo feels completely divorced from all of that with the MFT. And I agree with you that Jacob has built himself up in a way. He's into this incredibly charismatic. He's very good in the ring. He's great on the mic. They're trusting him a lot. It's been a great build. I think there aren't too many people who are putting money on him actually winning tomorrow night, but I think I have very little doubt he'll be booked really strongly. And I think that might lead to something down the road, because all signs point to Roman taking June off. He's been pulled from advertising from TV in June, with the reporting being that he's not booked for the show in Saudi at the end of June. So I feel, it'll be interesting to see what comes next.
So we go to the back where Nick Aldis, he's about to explain why Gunther is here from Raw, but he is cut off by Ricky Saints, who's here to, I guess, gloat about almost beating Cody Rhodes last week, who he calls QB1, but suggests why he has to face tonight QB4. And in walks Matt Cardona, who complains about the QB4 comparisons, and he calls him Rookie Saints. Ooh. So, yes, what a comeback, and that is our match tonight. Jacob Fatu sees Royce Keys in the back, and Keys says failure was never an option for the both of them, and he gives him another really good pep talk, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Now, this is when Solo Sikoa comes in, and he meets Keys again, tells Keys time is running up for him to join his family tree, which at this point is, I mean, can you really call like a thing with two branches trees? Like it's more of a twig, more of a stick. My family stick.
My family twig. Yeah, my family stick. It's not really a family tree to begin with at this point, because the Fatu branch and the Tongan branch are
aren't they related? Because like
they're all related. Yeah,
I don't know if they're actually related in real life, but at least like they have said recently, even that Jacob Fatu got what Haku is the uncle of Jacob Fatu. They've said because of the Tongan death grip stuff. Which
is true. That's
which would mean that brother. Hikuleo and Tama are distant relatives.
They're distant cousins of some sort. They used to say that Roman and, this is a sidetrack, Roman and the Usos were cousins. And they kind of are, but Roman, in fact, is a first cousin of Rikishi. So he's more like the uncle cousin, which is first cousin once removed or something like that. But these guys are intertwined. That's definitely true. I think what's fair to say is that Royce Keys is not part of the Tongan/Samoan family tree. So this feels kind of weird to me that Solo wants to recruit him. But I will just rewind to say that I really like the interaction between Royce and Jacob. It feels very authentic. Like you said, those pep talks can come off as kind of hokey, a bit daft. This came over as pretty real. When has Jacob ever been afraid of a man who breathes the same air as him? And that could, when I say it sounds ridiculous. When he says it, and Jacob's kind of leaning into it, it's great.
I think it's great when you say it, Neil. All right.
Okay.
If you came out and said this exact same verbiage, I mean, it would pump me up. I know
that's what I said to John about beating you. Of course. About finally. Defeating you in the CN Tower climb.
So we get Chelsea Green, of course, she's recovering from home after her surgery, and she basically wishes Tiffany Stratton good luck tonight after suggesting that she had trouble reaching her by phone. So they are still keeping some presence of her on screen despite the injury, and she didn't even have to get on a plane for this. So I mean, good for her. Seems like they're still teasing, the interaction between Chelsea trying to be friends with Stratton and Stratton wanting none of her. Now, what do you think this is all leading to? Because I feel like rather than a partnership, I feel like the destination may be actually a feud between the two. And if that's the case, I can't see crowds cheering for Tiffany Stratton over Chelsea Green.
No, me neither. I think it could become some sort of weird friendship that turns into a feud, or something like that. But they certainly have plans in place, and I think also it's worth mentioning that it was nice to see Chelsea being involved here, because it may have been somewhat of a routine operation, but she did have a heart procedure to correct a arrhythmia of her heart, which I think, as John very ably described in the news on earlier in the week, is a lot of people can go through without any surgery for this, but I suppose in an athletic pursuit, it's worth doing. So it was nice to see that she's doing well and she's recovering. That's beside the point. Yeah, they definitely have plans to tie these two together, but I agree with you that Chelsea is so organically popular with crowds, and Tiffany is so
not.
so not. Yeah, she's so one-dimensional as a character that, yeah, it's hard to see the heel face dynamic that they would want.
So we get our match for the U.S. Championship. It is Tiffany Stratton defending against Kiana James. Both of these women are former gymnasts. So, I mean, a bit of a mirror imaging of styles here, a lot of cartwheels and such. James starts working over Stratton's leg through a commercial break. James and Julia exchange some words on the floor because these two, this initial title shot was supposed to be planned for Julia until Tiffany Stratton chose Kiana James instead. So this is right before Tiffany Stratton comes back with the low drop kick for a 2 count. James delivers a pretty nice Death Valley driver for a 2. Julia distracts the ref right as James is about to go for a cover, so James is not happy about that. Stratton then takes Julia out on the apron. She delivers the rolling senton and then the PME to get the victory in, I thought, a decent little athletic match here, but mainly there to deepen the James and Julia feud. I continue to see the potential in Kiana James. I mean, they gave her a big role in the Elimination Chamber this year, and you haven't really heard much from her since then. She's just, wasn't really a part of WrestleMania plans or anything like that. But clearly there's still athletic potential in her, and this is potential that I wish would have been fully explored in NXT before her call-up, because while all that might still be there, I'm sure they might be impressed, to some degree with her. I mean, she's really been spinning her wheels in front of a big audience for years at this point, with a pretty dead-end gimmick here on SmackDown. But what did you think about Kiana James here in this match?
Yeah, just to tie on to that, I do dislike the way the call-up happened, because she's been positioned as a manager, as a brand manager, I think, originally, and now they're trying to position her as, a credible title challenger, albeit a mid-card talent. But anyway, the match was solid. I think, like you said, they're both come from this acrobatic background, so lots of handsprings and quite impressive looking moves. I think the selling was good. It was a solid enough match, but its positioning is all to do with trying to further the storyline, the slow-moving storyline between Kiana and Julia, who kind of led to the loss for Kiana here. There was a roll-up and Julia was distracting the referee during it. So it's just to further, this whole thing is really to further the dissension between these two. And the sooner they get to this, the better, because as we say every week, they don't have chemistry. They're a very odd couple pairing. So yeah, let's get to the breakup in the match.
So all throughout the show, they are taking us to the, open casket viewing of the Gingerbread Man. And Sami Zayn, of course, cannot believe any of this shit. R-Truth comes in offering his condolences, saying he sees the resemblance between Zayn and the Gingerbread Man. And this only angers Sami Zayn that much more. More on this a bit later. In the back, we've got Kathy Kelly with Charlexia. Rhea says Fatal Influence chose the wrong ones to mess with. Charlotte offers to work together. She and Rhea build some tension, and we get a whole can they get along dynamic between the two, while Alexa tries to play peacemaker. Truth is in the back with Damian Priest. Truth has a taped up shoulder and arm. Priest wants Truth to stay back tonight in his match against Talla Tonga. Truth, while reluctant, agrees after Priest tells him to trust him. So we get our match. Talla Tonga versus Damian Priest here. Tonga catches Priest not on the floor, slams him on the announce table and the desk as they go on the announce desk as they go to break. Priest then comes back. He uses a lot of spinning high kicks, working against somebody who's taller than him in this match. Yeah. He takes Solo out on the floor and then goes up top for a diving clothesline for 2. He's about to choke slam, but Tama Tonga shows up. Solo distracts. Talla delivers a discus lariat for 2 count. Out comes Truth, despite orders from request from Priest to stay in the back. He starts fighting Solo and Tama with one arm. Priest saves Truth from the Samoan spike, but reprimands Truth afterwards for coming out at all. Talla, using the distraction, then nails Damian Priest, delivering the chokeslam to get the victory.
I did not enjoy this at all. I think the overuse of the spinning high kick you already mentioned. There was about 6 of them in a row at one point. I thought the chokeslam finish did not look convincing either. It looks great if someone isn't as big as Damian Priest. Tala's obviously an absolutely gigantic guy, but Priest is big enough that it just doesn't really work for me as a finisher. in this context. And I think Tonga also, he doesn't sell very well, and he was called upon to do so in this match quite a bit. I know it's difficult when you're this big, I think, but well, I don't know it's difficult. I've never been in the ring, but I can well imagine that it's difficult, but it just didn't look great. I don't know. I think Talla is very limited. It didn't hurt, it didn't help either that the crowd felt very muted for this, right from Talla Tonga's entrance. And that just tells me that all the building they did last week to make this guy a complete monster, having him run through half the SmackDown roster, didn't do a great deal in the end, at least this week.
Well, honestly, for this particular crowd, I don't know how many people came across well,
Yeah.
of certainly the new recruits. And I would include that to that list. Royce Keys, who comes out afterwards to even the odds for the baby faces as the MFTs retreat. I felt a pretty mild reaction for Keys upon entry into the arena and also later on in the show as well. So again, I don't know how much to take this particular crowd reaction as an indicator of where he's at, but I mean, I think we've yet to hear that big deafening reaction for Keys just yet. So they're teasing some sort of 6-man, obviously, while also continuing to maybe tease some tensions here between Priest and Truth, for Truth, getting himself in danger. So we go to the back. We got where Danhausen has a sign-up list for people to be his tag partner tomorrow at Backlash. This is when Kit Wilson and Miz show up. They tease him about there being no signups on this list. Miz says that Danhausen has no friends. Danhausen says he's got friends like Papa Shango, Curly Man, and Bob the catering guy. Wilson says that the only person toxic enough to team with him is Danhausen himself. And Danhausen says it's a great idea. So off he goes for a big
Science experiment.
Science experiment a little bit later on. More from the Gingerbread Man all throughout the show here as we get clips and highlights of, his place in professional wrestling history. So they show AI-generated clips and photos of the Gingerbread Man in the crowd for big WWE moments like Hogan and Andre, Austin being taken away by the cops, John Cena's first title win. So, I thought they were keeping it to this, and we've seen a lot of maybe AI being implemented on WWE's, I could say maybe B-level programming recently in AAA, NXT. On the main roster, a lot less so. This in sort of still photo form, maybe you would consider a bit of a sort of dipping their feet in the water, at least, in this one segment. But what did you think about maybe the use of all of this?
There was a lot of this, and they come back for more sort of iconic WWE moments and inserting like this, as we'll get to the Undertaker's streak ending and Gingerbread Man is there. I don't particularly mind the use of AI for this sort of thing because, it would be better, I guess, if you had a technician with amazing Photoshop skills doing it, but they are stills. It's all rather comedic. And it is just a big gingerbread guy. So having him inserted into this, I don't particularly object to this as AI slop or something that an artist would be better doing, for example, because it's just so stupid to begin with. I'm more interested, Wai, in your reaction to any of these, placements of GBM into these moments. Did you find this remotely amusing, or what was your?
Even if it was Photoshop, I don't think I would find it personally that amusing. I felt like last week in all of this Gingerbread Man stuff, I didn't find it certainly not offensive. In fact, I might have gotten a chuckle out of it. I didn't really react well to, I didn't react, vocally to much of anything on this particular show. But I know plenty of people did, and plenty of people probably really found all of this really engaging. I felt again, like you, Neil, that maybe this was perfectly, I would even say, you could say acceptable, usage of AI in maybe very sort of short doses without maybe too much, something on the level of that Soul Root Kazari video, for instance. But of course, they had to overuse it like all throughout, and several commercial breaks, and then especially later on, as we'll get to in that closing segment. So a bit more on this a little bit later on. Nick Aldis is with Paul Heyman, and Heyman looks over the contract that he had Nick Aldis draw up for Gunther to officially sign to SmackDown. So Aldis, of course, is there to reprimand Gunther for what he did to Cody last week, while also at the same time saying, but by the way, I'm very happy to have you on the show. So no punishment, really. Like, in fact, he gets a contract out of it all. So they are, of course, interrupted by Cody walking out to the arena, which Gunther is not too happy about because this is supposed to be his moment. So Cody is in the arena. He calls Gunther out immediately, and instead he gets Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is asked about whether or not he is an advocate for Gunther. Heyman lets us know that he owes Gunther a favor. He is not his advocate, but this is the favor that he owes Gunther. So, I mean, this seems to settle that, Neil. Like, is this the big reveal of like what this sort of secret maybe favor is from Gunther, and does it further deter audiences from feeling like Gunther and Brock will happen as the actual favor?
I think that remains to be seen. I mean, it's certainly positioned as, yeah, hey, this is the favor, and it does feel like a big one. Getting trying to secure him a title match with Cody for the WWE Championship.
Okay, I thought the favor was like getting signed to SmackDown, but I guess that's really no.
I think that's part of the. I mean, the contract is for the match, isn't it? So I suppose it's all tied into.
So I want a title match, and I want to move to SmackDown. Okay. Well, Jacob Fatu got all of that without Paul Heyman,
I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
can't always get what you want without some help.
Okay, but
I did. By the way, I kind of liked the slightly novel use of production here when they were. Cody's entrance begins for us, the TV viewer, on the TV screen in the office. And then they cut to Cody walking out, and then they cut back to the office and these guys watching it and Gunther's annoyance. And I just thought that was kind of not unique or groundbreaking, but an interesting little wrinkle of production, that something that they don't normally do.
So yeah, do you have any sort of like further thoughts on maybe Brock and the whole idea of him, whether or not he's actually retired? Just of note is that they did move him to the alumni section of WWE.com.
Yeah, and which of late, of course, has been a signal that someone has gone from the company. So it would be somewhat poor taste of them to do that if he's not, because we've had some real releases of late. But we'll see how it pans out. The company is not above reproach. We know that.
All right. We shall see.
I did, but I think I've told you this. I did buy into the retirement at Mania, the X sign and stuff. As time has passed, I'm much more on the fence about all of that.
So Paul Heyman kisses up to Cody, and it shows him a contract for his match with Gunther. He says this match is not for Jacksonville. It's not even for the U.S. It is for Turin, Italy, a Clash in Italy, to which the crowd chants USA, USA. Heyman tells Cody if he wants Gunther's signature on the contract, he has to get it from Gunther directly. Cody says he's going to get serious and asks Heyman if he is out of options since Brock, Roman, Punk have all discarded him. Heyman says he's not the one out of options and says sooner or later they all need the wise man. So what did you take from this very suggestive and cryptic line?
Yeah, this plays somewhat more into what you were just talking about, I think. Like, I mean, Heyman as an on-screen character very rarely projects such confidence unless there's something up his sleeve. And of the options that we heard about, that Brock had retired, Roman has left him, that Punk has left him, who is there? Roman seems to be doing his own thing. I really can't see Punk. So, could a Brock return be on the cards? We just have to wait and see. And I think that's, as I say, that plays into what you talked about a little earlier on. It looks like Heyman has some sort of card up his sleeve that he wants to play. And we shall see.
See, my read on this was more about whether or not they might be teasing a Cody Heyman pairing. You know, with Cody saying that like Heyman no longer has Brock, no longer has Roman, no longer has Punk, but Heyman instead saying, well, eventually everybody will need me. You know, you're the one out of options, Cody. So when are you going to ask me for my services? Is almost the way I took it. But I mean, maybe I'm done at this point predicting any sort of Cody heel turn, which clearly I mean they really should not do. So at this point, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is an interesting thought because we think if this match happens, and it seems to be set for Clash in Italy, I would put my money at least on Gunther winning the title.
Yeah.
And at that point, then you need a creative direction for Cody. So, yeah, maybe that is where Heyman comes in.
Well, of course, Cody still is warring with TKO, although, I mean, not mentioned much since WrestleMania has ended, but that is still supposed to be a lingering, at this point, years-long storyline that I have to feel that they still feel confident in being able to pay off, despite not much mention of that at all right now.
Yeah, but don't forget TKO are 3-0 or 0-3. Sorry, they're trying to sabotage Cody. So maybe they're just licking their wounds at the moment as they look at their quarter one results.
All right, so this is when Gunther tries to choke Cody out from behind again, but this time Cody thwarts him multiple times, and then he eventually grabs the microphone, saying, "You think I sweat you, G?"
Calls him G. Yeah.
G, which I love. Okay, so G here. I mean, you know, look at the way he's dressed. He looks like more of a G at this point. GQ says that you want the high ground. Come and get it. I'm easy to find on SmackDown, but hard to beat. So this is a big setup for our match, presumably the main event at Clash in Italy, which is how far away are we from that show? End of May 31st. So 1, 2, 3, 3 weeks, like very close. 1, 2, 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks away.
Yeah, these 3-week turnarounds are pretty wild. Like, because it was only 3 weeks from WrestleMania to
and we've
tomorrow.
got Saturday night's main event in 2 weeks. So they have that to build up to as well. I'm sure as soon as Monday, we'll get some maybe big matches announced or starting, you know, to be teased. So then we got our next match, Matt Cardona, QB4, taking on Ricky Saints here. Saints avoids the broski boot, shows frustration as he retreats to the floor while we go to commercial break. Matt Cardona looks for the Rough Rider, but Saints again retreats. He does come back in, and Cardona is able to hit the Rough Rider this time for a 2 count. At this point, the crowd seems to be distracted by something going on. Somebody is, I guess, being ejected from the crowd, and they're chanting, "No, no, 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 hey, 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 goodbye." Saints delivers his Revolution DDT and then the Rochambeau for the victory. And I don't know if there was too much distraction from that member of the audience or what, but I personally didn't sense a ton of engagement for this match with the crowd really, I mean, giving a bigger reaction to the shenanigans in the crowd. So match was fine, but I would say as a follow-up to Saints' debut, pretty you know.
He looked genuinely angry at the end because I think his in-ring performance was the crowd were completely distracted. The last several minutes of this, as you said, Wai, they're singing the "Na Na Na Goodbye" song. So clearly someone's been ejected from the arena. Even before that, they don't seem particularly into this, the near falls and all the rest of it. I think it's difficult with Ricky Saints because you want to build him as a threat, as you know, somewhere in the upper mid card, for example, you know, somewhere fitting into around that. But he's not a monster sort of figure. So squash matches aren't the way to go. So you want a competitive win. I thought this was maybe a little too competitive. Matt Cardona, the crowd aren't particularly into him. And it felt like I've made this complaint about Matt a lot because they gave him a ton against Randy when he had a broken wrist. And again, they're giving him an absolute ton here. It felt like almost a lucky win with the Rochambeau by the end of this. So I don't know who this does a great deal for. For me, it doesn't do a great deal for Ricky Saints in building him up as a, you know, as a threat in this roster.
I agree with that. I mean, whereas last week I think being competitive with Cody was a way to elevate Ricky Saints. This week being competitive with Matt Cardona, unfortunately, sort of lowered him and showed him maybe what level he was at. And unfortunately, I do feel like when you're wrestling the style of Ricky Saints, which is not all that different from, I would say, like most of the heavyweights on the show, I do think like pairing him up with somebody who's bigger than him, like a Matt Cardona, kind of like makes him look less credible, or at least like somebody who maybe the height and the size difference does to me like maybe stand out a little bit more. And seeing him deliver something like the Rochambeau, which is like a to me like more of a power based move, um, I don't think made him look as convincing, you know. Even as convincing as like maybe facing Cody would have, but where like I sense a bit more similarity in sizing. I think Saints' like appeal is his ability to talk. He can talk himself up to the size of a giant if given the opportunity, and I would have had him do that on week 2, certainly a bit more. Rather than just this showcase, which again, fine to get him on the winning track, but hardly the thing that's going to be the difference maker. I also found it interesting how, like, we're talking Jacksonville, right? You know, both Saints and Keys didn't necessarily get like any sort of like special reaction. In fact, I thought they were kind of less than tonight. Which does that tell you anything about maybe like the crossover audience between maybe an AEW and Daly's Place AEW crowd and maybe a WWE crowd, or does it say anything?
Or the lack of a crossover, perhaps, if social media is any barometer. I think that it's an interesting point. I think these were WWE fans, and they weren't. I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that one way, but I do agree with you on the promo thing. I think where's the promo is in my notes because we haven't really, apart from his incredibly brief interaction with Nick Aldis backstage, it's where he shines, and we haven't seen much of that. And I also agree that pairing him with a bigger, more muscular, more physically imposing guy like Cardona was not a great idea either. You know, so I think they fumbled this introduction a little bit.
A little bit. So Brie Bella and Paige are walking in the back, and suddenly a ladder falls behind them as Danhausen zooms through the frames. So, you know, Danhausen is about to do this whole cloning thing, but like, did you read it into any sort of specific interaction with Paige and Brie, like that they're trying to build up here? What was
I didn't. I thought it was weird that the ladder fell. I think it was just another way to put Danhausen on screen, which, you know, while he's hot and over, they want to do quite a lot of that. But I don't think he's ever cursed them. So,
Yeah.
to the best of my knowledge, they haven't even caught a stray curse, have they? So, unless I'm wrong, I think this was just a coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, strange to maybe pair these guys together, at least on screen like this. So we get another Blake Monroe video package. She is still getting ready. She's still coming soon, and I imagine maybe after Backlash is when we'll actually get that. So Brie Bella and Paige are out. They are here to talk, and they are telling people that they think that people think that they are beatable champions, but they showed last week that they're not as easy to beat. Paige then addresses the Nostalgia Tour accusations by the Judgment Day on Monday and says Brie and Paige are the best they've ever been, and she tells everybody else to step up. So out come Fatal Influence. She says that these two must have forgotten that they dropped them 2 weeks ago. Fallon Henley and Laney Reed get a chance to speak for the first time, and Fallon does have a bit of a trip up with her dialogue, but I mean, she recovered fine here. They say Jane will be the new women's champion, while the two of them will be going for the tag team championship soon. This is when the Irresistible Forces come out, who also say that they want the titles and that Fatal Influence aren't going to jump in line. The crowd starts chanting, "Whoop that trick at Lash." Naya then suggests that they are calling Fatal Influence tricks and starts calling them trick. They attack Paige and Brie and then tell Fatal Influence to get to the back of the line. So your thoughts on this segment and this interaction for the tag team titles?
It was okay. I think at the beginning we get what I sort of expected, which is Brie's slightly monotone delivery and Paige's much better promo delivery. And then, yeah, for Fallon
There's
and
not much
Laney,
chemistry between them at all.
no, there
You know,
isn't.
despite being
It's
friends.
weird because they are genuinely friends, So, and I think probably off screen, they're having a good old laugh together. It just doesn't seem to translate.
Yeah.
I mean, you've summed up the rest of it. A little bit of a flub, but Laney and Fallon getting their first sort of mic time, they did okay there. Nia and Lash, I think, sort of are great. I just think and Nia being able to play off the rather unfortunate whip that trick chant, because that's all to do with who Lash is with, and it's just doesn't feel, doesn't sit particularly well,
I mean,
But
Trick
for
kind
Nia-
of invited that too with his
Yeah.
comment about ask the legend about whatever he said last week, right?
Something about her ass, I think,
Yeah.
was involved. Yeah. So yeah, that's true. Very much put their relationship into the public domain, into storyline, if you like, last week. So it's there. But Nia played off it well by calling them, the three of them, tricks, which was clearly an ad lib. So quite enjoyed that.
So that seems to be the tag team title feud that's building on SmackDown. Of course, we got the Judgment Day, who are also gunning for these championships as well. So one of these teams will probably beat them, and we shall see which one it is. Then we've got Rhea Ripley walking out in the crossover sort of segment here, and she has a big stare down with Lash Legend. So testing maybe the temperature for a future program, and again showing you how much they might see in a Lash Legend to pair her against the biggest star on this particular roster, on this program at least. So certainly the women's division on SmackDown has received that much needed facelift over the past couple of months with a lot of fresh blood here, and Fatal Influence I would add to that, Lash Legend, and also Rhea Ripley, accounting for I would say a big shift in what this women's division looks like.
Yeah, it was also another barometer, just to go back slightly, another barometer of this crowd really is that, for 2 weeks, for the first week in Fort Worth, we had the monster heel reaction that you would have prayed for Fatal Influence's debut. Then last week, something similar, not to the same extent. Tonight, not so much. I mean, you did get a kind of a chorus of boos when JC started to speak, but it was quite muted by the end, and they didn't really wake up again until Rhea came out. And of course, if she wasn't getting a big pop, then who else is going to?
So we get more Gingerbread Man AI images here, where Gingerbread Man was present at the Liz and Savage's wedding, the DX WCW invasion, the end of Taker's streak, all building up to tonight's funeral, of course.
I will say, like, these were fine. The picture of him at the end of the streak dressed as Undertaker kind of amused me a bit, but I kind of liked the backstage stuff better, the open casket thing, because Sammy is like, who even are these people here? And I found that funny, because that's my thought too. There was all these extras dressed in black, hugging and weeping and stuff, and I did find that kind of amusing. So I thought the stuff in the casket room was funnier than these AI stills.
We got Charlotte, Alexa Bliss, and Rhea Ripley taking on Fatal Influence here. I thought there was some rough coordination between Alexa and Fallon Henley to start things off, but then Rhea Ripley comes in. She turns up the pace and the crowd energy. She pretty much beats up the entire group on her own as we go to commercial break, where Fatal Influence have regained control. Rhea reaches for the hot tech to Charlotte. So, I mean, despite all the teasing of them not being able to get along, that really did not play itself out at all in this match. So they were working perfectly fine here. They go for a double natural selection, or she goes for a double natural selection for a 2 count. This is when Alexa tags in, and the rolling encore and the sister Abigail are both avoided. Jade Cargill then makes her return. She arrives, pulls Rhea off the apron, and the rolling encore is delivered to Alexa Bliss for the win. So, I mean, despite a rough start to the match, I thought things got going out to a decent level with Rhea and Charlotte in charge, and for their hot tags here. What did you think about the match? And more on this closing segment later.
Yeah, I agree with you that it was a slightly rough start, and 6 six persons can be messy, but I think once they got into their stride, they did perfectly well. It was a perfectly serviceable television match. A couple of moments that were just a bit weird. Laney's jelly legs, were deeply unconvincing, but again, she's probably the least experienced of the three in fatal influence. So, I think it worked out fine.
Jade Cargill then clears the ring. Meechin and B-Fab come into attack. So Rhea comes back briefly before she's being put down by Rhea again. So they are this is the return of Jade, B-Fab, and Meechin, and they are targeting the newly formed trio of Charlotte, Alexa, and Rhea.
Yeah. Are you excited about that way?
Can't really say I am too much. I feel B-Fab and Meechin still lack a lot of credibility, and a beatdown like this I don't think will be enough to change that. I was actually a lot more interested in seeing a fatal influence feud with Charlotte, Alexa, and Rhea than this. I mean, I know Jade, of course, is, a bigger star, but as like a faction, I feel like there's a lot more steam behind something like Fatal Influence than these three right now. So I mean, that could change, but I do think they need to build Jade and her baddies up a little bit more.
I think so too, and I also feel that the almost lack of a reaction for somebody who they've put so much into in Jade making a return. Now, it's only been a few weeks since Mania, but she has been missing from the show. And here she is. And, there really wasn't much of a reaction. I think it's, again, this crowd were just somewhat disengaged.
After something like a WrestleMania loss, I think you need a little bit more than just coming in and attacking somebody from behind. You really need a good fresh coat of paint, and this feels just more of a continuation of what we had before WrestleMania, which is hard to get that excited by.
Yeah.
So Royce Keys is in the back with the Usos. Jimmy says people don't know how far Keys goes back with his family. Jay says he might have ties with the family, but this is family business, and if he does not stay out of it, he might catch the attention of the tribal chief. So they're further working Royce Keys into the Bloodline's history. Where do you think it's all leading up?
I'm not sure, because Royce Keys' position seems so weird at the minute. He's been introduced as a powerhouse, no pun, and getting these squash wins. But now we've had several weeks of his ties, particularly to Jacob, because the two of them used to be running partners back in California. And now with the rest of the Usos. So I'm really not certain where he fits in, because he's also seemingly tied in to some sort of interaction with Solo and the MFTs, Solo's making these overtures to him to join the MFT, and he doesn't seem interested. So I'm not sure. He may well figure into something tomorrow night, because there's going to be some shenanigans in that main event, I'm quite sure. And Jacob doesn't really have any other backup as such.
I'm excited to see this unfold, and I'm excited. Like, I'm hoping in their minds they have the complete backstory and the history of like how Royce Keys exactly fits into their history, what shenanigans these guys might have all got up to when they're in their younger, maybe more, I don't know, what illicit days,
Yeah.
So like in their mind they might have this like beautifully written sort of like story for Royce Keys. I hope at least, so maybe that'll reveal itself, but for now I'm at least somewhat interested, especially like in the tease here of Roman potentially having an interaction with Keys. Now, judging by tonight's crowd reaction, I don't think that's something this crowd is going to be that excited by, but the visual and the image of seeing Roman standing up to like a big man like Royce Keys, I feel like that'd be enough to like, change maybe audience perceptions a little bit, and I'm kind of curious if they go that far. But
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm trying hard not to allow this crowd this singular crowd tonight to sort of color my reactions to what possible storylines could be, because save for getting into Cody's promo and big pop for Rhea, like the sort of stuff that you can absolutely take to the bank, they didn't really react to much this evening.
So, I mean, clearly, like, Keys and Jacob are going to be, I think, a pair, right? Like, I think we at least built
Yeah.
to a tag team. But how would that work if Jacob is supposed to fold into the Bloodline? Does it suggest that the only way for it to work is for Jacob, who likely won't be winning the championship, to still turn down the Bloodline and still oppose the Bloodline somehow?
Yeah, I think so. It feels like there's going to be some interesting booking tomorrow night. We know that it's not going to be a straight one-on-one match without any shenanigans whatsoever. I think that's pretty obvious. So who else gets involved? The Usos, who've been warned that the whole family tree goes on fire if they do. Royce Keys, we've established, is an old friend of Jacob's, so he might be around. There's some interesting combinations certainly there.
Jacob threatening to burn the whole family tree down feels more interesting to me, doesn't it, than just him simply joining the group. But
we'll very much so. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to see the expansion. I think of the Bloodline back into what it used to be. I don't think we need new direction.
So we get more about the Gingerbread Man and his history. He was present for the Angle Milk Truck. He was on his live stream reacting to CM Punk's return, and he was also in the ring, of course, for WrestleMania 40. Royce Keys takes on Tonga up next, and this week's Did You Know, Neil, that Royce Keys won the 2026 Andre Battle Royal?
I wrote this down, yes. All of three weeks ago or so, yes, Royce Keys won the Andre Battle Royal.
I'm sure to a good portion of this audience, this was news, because, I mean, nobody remembers the Andre Battle Royal past, like, that weekend, really. Like,
the statue turned up on week 2, which, I mean, that's something.
Who won last year?
I know it's Carmelo, but I think I had to look that one up.
Okay, how about the one? How far back can you go?
Oh, no, that's as far as I can go. Carmelo at least in 2025.
Can you at least name other winners?
Cesaro, when he was Cesaro.
Yeah.
Because I remember the statue being destroyed or used as a weapon or something shortly afterwards.
I believe he was the first one.
Yeah, I believe so.
Baron Corbin?
Probably. Was it when he was Constable Corbin, dressed as the waiter, or Happy Corbin?
How many Andre Battle Royal winners are there? How long has this thing been in existence?
I'm not sure.
This thing debuted in 2014. There have been 12 Andre Battle Royal winners. All right, we've gone through 3 Olympic cycles with the Andre Battle Royal, and we barely scratched the surface. I feel like we named that's all I can name, by the way. Like Baron Corbin, Claudio. Allow me. Cesaro, The Big Show, Baron Corbin, Mojo Rawley is a former Andre the Battle Royal winner. Matt Hardy is a former Andre the Giant Battle Royal winner. Braun Strowman, Jey Uso, Madcap Moss, real who's who here. Bobby Lashley, Bronson Reed, and then Carmelo Hayes, and now Royce Keys. What an illustrious group here. So,
well, I guess Carmelo was someone who he's been absent from TV for a couple of weeks, but we don't know why. He's someone they've been building lately.
Madcap Moss.
Madcap Moss.
That's a name I have not thought about in quite some time.
No, I mean my major memory of Madcap was that awful bump he took right on the top of his head that one time. But yeah.
All right. So Royce Keys and Tonga here. Solo and Talla are on the floor, but Solo has instructed Talla not to get involved in this match. There's a lot of back and forth to, again, a pretty mild reaction, I would say. Keys starts firing up, and on the floor, he starts yelling at Tonga, who is held back by Solo Sikoa. Back in the ring, he is able to deliver the TUS, the TUS, Neil, The ultimate spine buster. That is the official name that they've given his version of the spine buster, and he wins the match. Like, seriously, like the ultimate spine bust. Like that sounds like something like a 5-year-old would come up with, or Vince McMahon. I guess take your pick.
It does sound like a Vinceism. I'm not sure what's ultimate about it, other than it's just a big, powerful spine buster. Yeah,
it's
I
not just
guess.
any spine buster. It's the ultimate.
The ultimate spine buster. Yeah, the ultimate thrill ride.
Yeah. So
It's stupendous.
Yeah, like I said, I felt a pretty mild reaction for Keys here, and I mean, I feel like everything he's been doing has been going well. I think the videos are going well. Certainly, like his backstage interactions, I think are going well. He's conducting himself well, but it did not result in much reaction tonight. And we shall see if what future reactions will be, maybe in fuller crowds.
Yeah, and again, the crowd were really only getting very loud for the absolute main eventers in like Rhea, Cody, etc. People like that.
So in the back, we got Danhausen, who is there with a cloning machine here. He's got some beakers and dry eyes and all this good stuff. He puts one of his teeth inside the machine, and he says in 24 hours he will have a clone to help him take over the world at Backlash. This is when the machine breaks. So we kind of leave him with that. So we will see what sort of abomination comes out of this tomorrow. Do you have any guesses?
My guess is either Jelly Roll or CM Punk.
Do you think this machine will have produced a?
No, I think the machine has broken, and he's going to have to get
the machine has to make something. Like maybe at least maybe the fetus, maybe like the Mae Young fetus will come back dressed as Danhausen. That would be fun. The hand. Sorry, yeah, the hand. Yeah, did I say fetus? I meant.
Yeah, could be.
That's another.
I don't know.
Another story. Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Well, maybe we'll give our official prediction. All right, in our preview coming up in the XL edition. Tonga is in the back, and this Shinsuke Nakamura doesn't really have much to do these days, other than to taunt Tonga. Every time he loses, he comes in. He says, "I'm disappointed in you. You're still in the MFTs after months now of me telling you to not be in the MFTs." That's all he does. He says his own brother won't even help him now. Talla then comes in, his brother, his only brother here, tells him to stay away or else he will have problems. So this is still moving. It is moving very slowly, but it is still moving.
This has been going on for months. And you're right about the brother thing. Earlier, the commentary team did explain that Tama Tonga took last week off to get his head right. So that's one explanation. We haven't been told when to expect JC Mateo and Tonga Loa back though. So maybe next week or the week after.
At least there was reference made to Kyrie. If you're JC Mateo and I guess Tonga Loa, I mean you might as well not have been there.
Yeah, I think it's storyline. They never existed.
They were pruned from the tree.
Yeah.
So this is the main event, everybody. It's the Gingerbread Man's funeral here. This is, of course, hosted by Trick Williams here. And, of course, we got the Gingerbread Man in his casket. Trick is dressed in all black. He pours one out on onto the mat. And this is...
Milk, which is...
Was it milk? Was it milk?
Yeah.
Of course, yes. This is when the music comes on and Trick starts singing with this choir behind him. Can somebody tell me why? Why did the Gingerbread Man have to die? And it's awful as it was meant to be. And then we get into this AI generated montage, probably set to an AI generated song of the Gingerbread Man growing up, going on vacation, going to college, climbing a mountain with Yachty and Trick, going to a strip club with Yachty and Trick, even being the one to take the photo of Trick Williams and Yachty with Paul Levesque in gorilla position when he won the U.S. Championship. And coming out of this, the crowd chants, "Gingerbread, gingerbread."
He's also in space with Yachty and Trick.
Shall we name every photo that they
DJing, playing college football? Well, anyway, a life well done, I think, is what they said at the end of the video.
Right. This is where I feel like they I mean, it was really overboard, I feel. Anyway, what am I complaining about here? They use too
I
much
had
AI for Gingerbread Man, memorial montage. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. Gone
I
too
kind of
soon.
enjoyed this way. I did. But by this point in the show, I was ready to be sports entertained by all of this, like something happening in the ring. And from the singing and the gospel singers with their sort of chorus of lemon pepper steppers and all, I was enjoying this. I'll put it
Yeah,
out there. Even
I,
if you were
I,
sitting there stony
I
faced
think I think I was tolerating it.
with your arms
I was like,
folded.
yeah. I mean, I hate to sound. I feel like I usually be the one on the other end of the equation, and John would probably be in this role. But maybe just like recapping it does something to you, or you just I just don't feel like I've enough time for this low effort bullshit. But
Okay.
nonetheless, like I'm probably in the minority because even our good friend John Cena tweeted me. He said, "Gingerbread Man funeral segment of the year." So this might be the one that brings John Cena back. All right. So
Yeah,
thank
let's go.
shout out Cena here. He was enjoying it. He says the crowd starts chanting gingerbread, and then this is when Sami Zayn comes out saying enough, and he gets booed. Sami says TV time on SmackDown, closing down SmackDown, being the U.S. champion. That used to mean something. Zayn, I love this. Zayn asks Trick, how much money did you spend on all of this? I counted 1,000 roses. That's a lot of money. How much did you pay to rent that off-key choir? He talks about the casket, and clearly, the price of caskets has been much debated in the wrestling world recently. He says this is solid oak. They don't make them like that anymore. And he says all this money's spent for what, Trick? To make a joke out of me? Sammy says I would never do this to you because I have too much respect for you. I'm a working class hero who respects these people, and I represent them. I represent my ride or die fans until the end. And at this point, the crowd starts chanting, "Whoop that Trick, whoop that Trick." Zayn says he's been here with the best. He's 20 years in the game. And Zayn admits that Trick did get under his skin, but now it's personal and it's not just about the US title. So tomorrow he's going to make a joke out of Trick and he's going to expose and disrespect him tomorrow. And this is when Sammy cheap shots Trick Williams. He starts holding the US Championship high. Out comes the Gingerbread Man out of his grave, out of his casket, and he exposes himself as Little Yachty. Little Yachty with a candy cane who comes out and attacks Sami Zayn. Trick shot is delivered to Sami Zayn, laying him out, and the crowd reacts well to all of this as Trick Williams and Yachty stand tall to close the segment and this edition of SmackDown.
I did enjoy the fact because we didn't see Gingerbread Man's face until this moment. That when he sat up, it had sort of X's over the eyes to denote that he was dead, which I kind of enjoyed. I like this, and I will say though, like if you're a logic fan of logic, you're going to be completely with Sammy on this. Like, this is a guy in a costume, not a real person. And everybody from the announcers, Joe Tessitore, Nick Aldis, all those people backstage, Kathy Kelly outside the medical room last week, have been gaslighting Sami Zayn. It's not just Trick and spending a bit too much money on an oak casket he didn't really need. So if you're into trying to dissect the exact logic of this, you'd probably be with Sami Zayn. It's like, what are these people trying to do to this?
I'm not looking to dissect the logic, and I don't know. I feel for anybody who is trying to do that. There is no logic to be had. I mean, well, the logic is that this is all a joke on Sami Zayn. Everybody is in on the joke on Sami Zayn because he's the nerd. He's the geek in all of this, and it's way more fun to be like with the cool guy and playing along with the cool guy. I guess I respect it. I respect Danhausen. Like I respect like really a lot of things that I think are fun and like good parts of the show, and maybe not for me, but I also acknowledge that this is something that is probably really helpful for this feud and probably helpful for the match itself, which will probably receive a great reaction. And I think this was a great way actually to build to the match for tomorrow.
I agree. I agree with that. I'm sorry that you didn't find it as funny as look, let's be relative about this. I was not rolling on the floor and having to grasp my sides with laughter. But I was thoroughly entertained, particularly by the final segment. I'll agree with you that some of it was the fact that it was interspersed, the show was interspersed so much with this, was maybe a bit much. But I thought that as a main event segment, and Sammy in particular, just being the boy, kind of the voice of reason, to say that, you know, how much all of this cost and that TV time used to mean something and all the rest of it. I kind of like that, you know, the fact that he's speaking something that really we ought to agree with. But when he talks about his ride or die fans, all he gets is booze. So I don't know if a crowd as unreactive as tonight's were could get up for this, then, you know, I think it did the job. And I don't think it's harmed Trick Williams at all, because I've seen some talk about that, you know, this sort of denigrates the character of Trick Williams in some sort of way.
I don't think it does that at all.
I don't think so either.
I think they found actually a strong way to straddle the line between like somebody who is clearly a babyface now, but I think like still has an edge, you know, about him, in that like he's like The Rock, you know, you like him not because he's, I don't know, virtuous or moral even, but because he's cool, and because he's cool when he's making fun of other people. And I feel like they've done a good job of that. You know, he's still a guy who cares about his money first and foremost, and he's also incredibly entertaining when he's making fun of the nerd. So,
and the fact that he's got so much charisma, he can sing badly, and, you know, go around saying, you know, that he's had better days, you know, to Aldous when he arrives, and feigning all of the heartache over the death of this mascot. Yeah. I think it just speaks to what a great performer this guy is. He really is excellent.
This felt like the type of segment very much like, I think in the same vein as, you know, like a Rock, This Is Your Life, you know, sorry. Yeah. Or, and like, whatever, like your big sort of like Attitude Era stunts with like a big set dressing and a big reveal. And I thought they nailed it with the Yachty reveal. I just feel like I could only imagine what those segments would have been if AI was present, you know, at a time. I think things would be very different. So anyway, so that is SmackDown. Your thoughts overall on the show as we lead to Backlash in less than 24 hours.
I think it was somewhat of a disappointing episode tonight. The 3 hours dragged for me. I think there was a bit too much of the gingerbread stuff interspersed up to that ending. I'm interested in what the ratings will be. Some of it, like the actual backstage parts, as I already mentioned, you know, did actually amuse me a little bit. We skipped over Sammy's interaction with Gargano and with. You know,
I'm so sorry.
I think you did that on purpose. But yeah, the crowd and their lack of reaction. I mean, they pay the big bucks for these tickets. They can sit on their hands if they want, but it did make the show somewhat less interesting to me. So yeah,
I like how the Gingerbread Man, like, by a wide margin, got a way bigger reaction than Royce Keys or Ricky Saints, or really, like, I mean, even Fatal Influence on the show.
Fatal Influence, yeah.
As a follow up to like the recent call ups, I kind of found the show to be, you know, maybe more so because of the crowd. This did not feel like a great second week, third week for a lot of these recent debuts. But again, small crowd, maybe you chalk it up to that. But as far as like the booking of Ricky Saints, I thought that was not helpful necessarily for him. They're integrating Royce Keys, you know, they're making a big effort to integrate him into these storylines, and I feel a bit more optimistic about his role because he's, well, a big guy. And Fatal Influence, I think they're booking the unit strong. So there's that.
Yeah, I think that the fact that they've been seemingly split off from the sort of main event women in the shape of Rhea and Charlotte and Alexa is somewhat of a, but they beat them. They got that win, so they're still booking them strong.
Then we got Cody and Gunther, of course. And all of that should maybe lead us to our feedback section in the Post Wrestling Cafe, where we'll also give our predictions for the full card for Backlash tomorrow. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on YouTube and also on the free feed. Do like and subscribe. As always, if you really like us, consider jumping aboard the Post Wrestling Cafe, where we will be joining you guys right now.